Good day, everyone. I am Rivera, and today I am going to report about the Aristotle happiness as the ultimate purpose of man.
At the end of this lesson, you are expected to define what is happiness for Aristotle and distinguish the difference between the ethical frameworks of Plato and Aristotle and discuss the general criteria in order for one to recognize the highest good of man. One theory that can possibly provide a comprehensive understanding of how an individual can develop moral character is virtue ethics. The two major thinkers of ancient Greece, Plato and Aristotle, are considered to have discourses concerning virtue. But it is Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics that one can find the first comprehensive programmatic study of this kind of ethics. One can clearly see in Aristotle's discourse of ethics how he departs from a Platonic understanding of reality and conception of the good. Both Plato and Aristotle affirm na- rationality as the highest faculty of a person, and having such characteristic enable a person to realize the very purpose of her existence. But at the end, they differ in their appreciation of reality and nature, which in turn result in their contrasting standard on what the ethical principle should be. For Plato, the real is outside the realm as any human sensory experience, but can somehow be grasped by our intellect. The true and ultimately the good are the sphere of forms or ideas transcending our daily human condition. On the other hand, for Aristotle, the real is found within our everyday encounter with object and the world. What makes nature intelligible is its character of having both form and matter. Therefore, the true and the good cannot exist apart from the object and are not independent of our experience. Aristotle begins his discussion of ethics by showing that every act that a person does is directly toward a particular purpose, aim, or what the Greek called telos. There are the There is a purpose why one does something, and for Aristotle, a person action manifests a kind of good that she appears for. Every pursuit of person hopes to achieve a good. One seeks for the purpose of a good, which is that of giving sustenance of the body. A person pursues a choosing career, aiming for a good, which is that of providing a comfortable future for her family. A person will not do anything which is though of not giving her any good. So even an addict who uses dangerous drug thinks that such act will give some kind of good to her or him. This does not necessarily mean that using drug is good, but an addict would want to believe that such act is good. Therefore, for Aristotle, the good is considered to be the telos, or purpose, for which all acts seek to achieve. One must understand that an individual does so many actions and purpose in life, and correspondingly each of these activities have different aims. Aristotle is aware that one does an act not only to achieve a particular purpose, but such purpose is so because it can be utilized for a higher goal or activity which that can be used to achieve an even higher purpose, and so on. In other words, the different goods that one purpose form a hierarchy of telos. Example, when one diligently write down notes while listening to a lecture given by the teacher, she does this for the purpose being able to remember the lesson or the course. This purpose of remembering in turn becomes an act to achieve a higher aim, which is to pass the examination given by the teacher. which then becomes a product that can help the person attain the goal of having passing marks in the course. It is important for Aristotle that one becomes clear and hierarchy of goals that the different act produce in order for a person to distinguish which action are higher than the other. If there is if there is a hierarchy of talos, Aristotle then proceeds to ask what the highest purpose, which is the ultimate good as well of the human being is. So Aristotle discusses the general criteria in order for one to recognize the highest good of man. First, Aristotle states that the highest good of man must be something that is final. As a final end, it is no longer utilized for the sake of arriving at a much higher end. So, in our example, the purpose of remembering the lesson in the course that is why one write down notes. It is the final end because it is clear that such purpose is aimed at in order to achieve a much higher goal. So, second, the ultimate telos of man must be something that is self-sufficient. Satisfaction in life is arrived that once this highest good is attained. Nothing else is solved. The desire for one's this self-sufficient goal is achieved since this is already considered as best possible good in life. Again, the given example, the goal of remembering the lesson in the course is not yet the best possible good because a person can still seek for other more satisfying goal in her life. So, what is the highest goal for Aristotle? What goal is both final and self-sufficient? It is interesting to note that for Aristotle, the question can only be adequately answered by all older individuals because they have gone through e- enormous and challenging life experiences which help them gain a wealth of knowledge on what the ultimate purpose of the person is. For Aristotle, older individual would agree that the highest purpose and the ultimate good of man is happiness, or for the Greeks, eudaimonia. Aristotle says, no such a thing happiness, above all else, is held to be. For this we choose always for itself and never for the sake of something else. But honor, pleasure, reason, and every virtue we choose indeed for themselves. For if nothing result from them, we should still choose each of them. But we choose them also for the sake of happiness, judging that means of them we shall be happy. Happiness, on the other hand, no one chooses for the sake of this, nor general for not anything other than itself. One can therefore say that happiness seems to fit the first criterion of being the final end of the human being. For it is clear that condition, for example, of having wealth, power, and pleasurable feelings are not chosen for themselves but for the sake of being means to achieve happiness. Aristotle continues in saying that happiness is also the self-sufficient end. He says, let us examine this question. However, on other occasions, the self-sufficient we now define as that which, when isolated, makes life desirable and lacking in nothing. And such we think happiness to be, and further we think it more desirable of all things, without being counted as one good thing among others. If it were so counted, it would clearly be made more desirable by the addition of even the least of goods, for that which is added becomes an excess of good, and of goods the greater is always more desirable. So happiness for Aristotle is the only self-sufficient aim that one aspires for. No amount of wealth or power, for example, that can be more fulfilling than having achieved the condition of happiness. One can imagine a life, for example, of being wealthy, powerful, and experiencing pleasurable feelings, and yet such life still is not satisfying without happiness. Once happiness is achieved, things such as wealth, power, and pleasurable feelings just give value added benefits in life. The true measure of well being for Aristotle is not by means of richness or fame, but by the condition of having attained a happy life. So, this is the end of my report, and that would be all. Thank you.